What a tune! Yeah, boy! Alrighty then. Nevermind the Ballast. Hello and welcome. Sorry it's Thursday and not Wednesday. Unfortunately, our good friend Colin Turkington couldn't make it yesterday because of the testing. Why have I got trance on? Because our guest tonight on Nevermind the Ballast, Colin Turkington, the reason I love him is because he's so fast and he's a cool lad, but he loves trance. How amazing is that? Alexa, mute. Enough of that, anyway. Right, I do love a bit of trance, and so does Colin. Right, Colin's ready, he's waiting, he's going to get involved. So cool to be back, and yes, this guy is an absolute gem of a fella. 4 times British touring car championship winner. What a guy. 51 wins to his name. That's 49 more than me. But I got my first win before I'd won 2 races before he'd won, but he was in a rubbish car, and I was in the best one. So anyway, let's get him on board. Let's hopefully get him involved. Go Langton. I hope he can hear us. He's probably been laughing at my dancing, which will be a bit of a wounder for my mum, because my mum will be watching. Here he is, Cole.
Hi mate, good to see you.
How are you doing, mate?
Good, thanks. Yeah, good form. A little bit jaded after 2 days testing. The body feels a little bit fragile today. You know, that's first time back in the car in 3 months. So yeah, I need well fed tonight.
No way. Interesting that actually. You talked about the testing first of all. But mate, I'm honestly, you look amazing. I mean, what is going on? You are just Benjamin Button. Why do you look 20? You're like 3 years younger than me, and I look 80.
Louise has actually just done my makeup before we come on. Yeah, you know, I'm feeling my age now. You know, I keep telling myself I'm no longer 18. I'm now 38. So, you know, my mind still thinks I can do the things that I could 20 years ago, but the old body lets you know that you can't. But you know, I'm aware that I need to look after myself. You know, I've always had, aside from my time at uni, I've always had a pretty good diet, and you know, I try to exercise and eat good food, and you know, it's trying to prolong the career as long as I can. You know, I used to be the young kid on the block, but now now I'm not. So I'm in this. I've been put in the same bracket as Matt and Jason. You know, I'm now the old guard. So yeah, I need to look after my energy.
That's horrible, mate. Being put in the same bracket as Matt Neal and Jason Plato. No thanks, mate. But it's very interesting because you are, aren't you? You are the old guard, and you've been in it since 2002. It's a long, long time. And I know that you've been in world touring cars and other things, but it is a long time in British touring cars. I mean, when you look back at Super Tourers, they weren't in it for that long, a lot of them. They were championship contenders, done and gone.
Yeah, you know, on one hand, I'm so fortunate that I've been in the championship for that length of time. You know, I was like you. That's all I ever wanted was to race in BTCC, and you've no idea how long your career is going to be, and it's as long as you can you can make it, really. And you know, I've been fortunate that it has become my job, but it just gets harder every year, and it demands more from you. And you know, it used to be I would get to finish the last race of the season, you know, probably October 3 or something, and that would be it. You know, I would stop training. You would have no commercial or sponsorship engagements really until the Autosport show in January. But now the off season is even busier than race season, because you're so busy trying to put the package back together, and you know, you're not sleeping because you don't know if you're going to be able to put the commercial package back together to race. So you know, each year comes at you quicker than the one previous. And you know, to be honest, I was you know, in a way really glad to see lockdown. You know, not glad that we had this pandemic, but I took the good of the situation, and it was just a perfect opportunity, for us as a family to catch our breath, because the season was coming at me so quickly. And I think especially when you win, when you win the championship, you have so many more engagements through the winter. You go into award ceremonies, sponsor events, all great things, but all events that demand energy and late nights and a few bevies as well. But the next year comes around so quickly, and the next thing you're at the Autosport show, and you think you've got 2 months, and then bang, your media day, first race, and off we go again. And the level is so high that it's push, and you're trying to fine tune your body and maximize performance every year. And I'm kicking on 40 now, so that's why I'll be eating my broccoli and my boiled chicken tonight.
Do you know, Colin, that was so interesting what you were just saying, because we speak offline when we're doing events, like, when we're doing filming stuff with my friends at 29 and you with BMW, and we do speak a bit, actually, considering we haven't raced together for years. But I remember you saying about, it's people don't realise, do they? Even though you're a factory BMW driver, which is a massive, brilliant achievement just on its own, you're a 4-time champion with 51 wins. You don't just turn up and drive a car these days. It's not super touring, is it? I mean, we're very lucky we've got the likes of Honda and BMW involved, but the way the world is, there isn't that amount of free money around, is there, anymore? And it's not been like that since 1998, I think.
Yeah, I've never known those days, when the super touring days that we all hear about, when every driver on the grid was employed on a good salary. The landscape is different now, and I am in a great position with Team BMW. But that said, it's still tough for us as a team, because money is performance. If you want to go fast, if you want to win, you have to invest everything, and that's money and energy. And we've had great success over the past few years, but that's only because we've emptied the tanks on every level. You see me on those Brands Hatch final days. You barely have the energy to celebrate, because you've just given everything. And that's the place you got to go, to win it, and to do that annually is difficult. Every year I like to try and progress and bring a better version of myself there, but that's tough to do, because you just got to keep digging deep, and it's not like this is all I do. I have the same stresses and strains as everybody else does. We're running a family, and 2 kids at school, and you're juggling a lot of balls. But it's your shop window as a racing driver is is quite small. And for me, I feel this is my time to shine, because I'm with the best team in a great car, and I have everything I need around me. So now's the time to shine, and that's why I'm motivated to invest everything. But sometimes you can make it look easy from the outside, but if you see me crawling out of bed at 6:30 in the morning, you would know. You can see the strain on my face. It's not easy.
It must be, and I'll be brutally honest with you, Cole. For me, you're perceived as one of the nicest, fastest, cleanest, best drivers British touring cars has ever seen. And I seen that from day one when you joined at the second round in 2002 in the Team Atomic kitten car at Alton Park, where I won. That you don't know about, because I never say it to anyone, even you, I never tell you. But I think it's great you're perceived like that. And a lot of the time, mate, I think that annoys fans. I mean, a racing driver in general, if they were like that all the time, which you are, but because you're such a good guy, you've got so many fans and so many people love it when you do well. And is that something that you feel, or do you block everything out? Because you are like Lewis Hamilton to me, mate. You have the blinkers on, nothing else matters. Even me, I consider myself as a good friend of yours, I do not know what goes on when you're not racing. So there could be anything happening. You could be so annoyed about the championship. You could be, thinking, oh, I can't be doing this anymore. I just want to quit. Do them things happen, or am I making all that up? Because I think when I did it, I wasn't as good as you, but still I used to get up and think, I don't know if I can do this today.
I'm just a good bluffer. Yeah, I've learned from the best. Yeah, it's we all have our really difficult days, and I think I think I've spent a lot of time trying to work on the mental side of things, because for me that's the big challenge with BTCC, is that over any other championship we watch on TV or look at, even F1 or any of these other top series, I always say with BTCC there's so much outside of your control, that there's all these external factors that make your life so difficult that you cannot directly influence. And for me, that's the challenge, is accepting that and understanding that, and being able to block out the distractions. You have success ballast, you have reverse grid, you've 29 other cars on the grid, you've got weather. You've got all these psychological battles from the other drivers. You've got balance of performance. There's so many elements that I can't directly influence or control or change. That the only way around that is for me is just to keep focused on my own performance. And yes, when I look back over the past few years, I've had some real rotten weekends. 2018 in particular, we started the season so poorly in terms of results and performance, but you just got to keep trying to be positive and knowing that things will turn around. And that's also with BTCC, when things are going well, I always find you're waiting for the next curveball or for the next challenge. So for me, it's just trying to keep that positive mindset, and just keep working on myself, keep trying to improve, and find the tiny margins, find those incremental gains, and just try and get myself to the Brands final in with a chance, and hope that the cards fall your way on the day. But it's like I've always said, there's no magic to BTCC or to winning. It's just hard graft from now to the end.
And I think that's what shows, that when I look from I think because I'm a bit older now, I look at every driver. You've got the youngsters who haven't even got a wife or a girlfriend or kids to think about. They probably still live with their parents. They go race as hard as they can. They don't care. It's like it's their last day. Then we've got the likes of yourself, and Plato's different again. He's got corporate people to look after throughout the whole of his car and his whole team. And then, like I say, with yourself, you've got every single other thing to look after, and it's how you focus on the driving and doing what is the right thing to do. And mate, honestly, I take my hat off to you, because these have been the easiest 7 years not driving I've ever had. I absolutely love it, mate. You can come and do Twitter on ITV.
I tell you what, adrenaline gets you through so much. It is very extreme, in terms of the energy that you have to give. I remember Oulton Park last year. It was blistering hot, and you have the three races. I was starting on pole, hadn't slept that well the night before, and you do one race and you think, oh my gosh, I have to do this another 2 times. And thankfully we had a paddling pool set up of ice cold water, and that was like giving me CPR in between races. I would off the podium, spray the champagne straight into straight into the paddling pool, and it's like you know when you go on holidays on a lad's holiday, and you've had one too many the night before, and you jump into the sea the next morning and you're brand new. It's a bit like that. So having to do that 3 times through the course of the weekend was my only coping strategy. And but I'm one of these people that I get home on Sunday evening, and I'm tired, but I'm wired. I'm absolutely knackered, but I can't sleep because you're still processing everything about the weekend. And even Monday night, even the following night, the adrenaline is still going in my body. So it's not until like Wednesday before I conk out. I hear drivers saying, that they get home on a Sunday night and they're just out for the count. I'm still going through everything. So yeah, I think it's probably a bit of a sign of old age too.
It's interesting you say that about the processing side of things, because it's difficult to switch off from racing anyway, isn't it? But it's going to be really weird this year, because you're still going to be thinking about, like in August, we've got 4 on the bounce every weekend. You'll still be thinking about the race before as you turn up to the next one, because the trucks and the cars will be moving to the circuit. You'll have probably 3 days at home. You'll have to go and do a shakedown. It's going to be full on, isn't it?
Yeah, it's going to be, I can't sit here and complain. I think it's going to be full on for the guys in the team, for the mechanics. They're the blokes and girls that really got to graft hard in between. For the driver, we can focus on our recovery and try and get the rest. But, normally minimum we have 2 weeks in between races, and, the teams will, take the engines out, suspension off, inspect everything, and it's full on strip down and rebuild. But now they got to do that in 3 days. Really, you got to do that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday to then leave to go to the circuit potentially on a Thursday. So it's not clear yet what's happening about shakedowns where they're going to be, but. For sure, that's why I've been trying to get some, focus on the rest and recovery, because I'm going to be extracting a lot come August. But at the same time, it's exciting. I think this will be my 17th or 18th year in the series, and I'm really looking forward to that long. I'm really looking forward to going about it in a different way, because every year, we go to the same tracks at the same time of the year, and it does become a bit groundhog. And I was looking forward this year to doing Silverstone International, because it was, it was something different. But the way we are this year with COVID, it's completely mixed the season up. So it's going to be a fresh challenge, and it's going to be a strange year. It's going to be different. Can't even speak now. It's going to be difficult and different for everybody, but. You sort of got to just try and embrace the challenge and, enjoy it for what it is.
Yeah, no, of course, mate. And I think we're lucky as well that touring cars has actually got a set calendar unless something happens, whereas Formula One hasn't. And them drivers are going to be thinking on their feet about the championship points and stuff. So at least you've got something set in stone that we can go forward for.
Yeah, we know the calendar and the challenges that lie ahead, so we can prepare for that. But I think we're going to find ourselves at Brand's season final in no time. This year is just going to fly by. But it's exciting, and it was getting out in the car yesterday and Tuesday sort of reignites the whole passion and enthusiasm for it again. It was great to see everybody in the team again and get back into the groove. But it's going to take me a while getting used to the old face mask. My mouth was just sweating all day. But
not even hot yet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but that's the new normal, and it was great to see so many. Pretty much all the drivers back out there, and it was all looking pretty competitive. So. Yeah, we're well set up again for another great season.
Yeah, some things never change, mate, do they? Col, can I take you back to 2003, your second year in British touring cars, and your first win was at Brands, and I think it was the second to last round of the year. I think it was, because I was in that race. I was on the podium with you. I think I finished a third. I think it was. Alan Morrison was on the podium. Yep. He was second, and I remember you won the race, and I was dying to get over to you in the paddock, in the Parc Fermé, just to say well done, because I know how much it means. I thought that had come quite late, your first win. You'd had a nightmare first few rounds that year with WSR, with the new car. I think it was an MG built, a WSR built car, because the other one was a Lola, from what I remember, the Atomic Kitten car. What did that feel like, mate? Because I remember you were so made up. And Alan Morrison, I remember on the podium, you probably don't remember this, he shook your hand and he said, always remember your first one, because you never know if you'll get it.
Yeah, I remember it so vividly. That final lap, there was a safety car released on the penultimate lap, and Ivan was leading the race, and I think he hadn't maybe kept enough heat in the brakes, so he locked the rear going into paddock, and I obviously took the lead and won the race. But it's you've felt it. It's sensational, winning that first race. Whenever, from a kid, your target has just been BTCC. From 10 years old, you've been watching it, and that's all you want to do. And when you're battling with guys like Ivan and Anthony Reid and Paul O'Neill, and I think you can't quite believe you've got there. It's probably all happening a bit too fast. It's because you don't expect to win, and it's happened. You're on the podium, and you've got all these emotions that you've never felt before. But a special day, and I'll never forget that. And even I remember so much about your first win as well. Because we were of the same time. We started in the same year, and you'd won your race at Oulton Park, and it's such a big deal. It's such a big moment in your life, and thankfully we've got all those pictures and images to look back on. So that's what sport and motorsport brings us. It's those really special days that you cherish for the rest of your life.
Well, we're very fortunate, mate. Of course, I'm so fortunate, and it's a privilege for me to because I knew you'd be champion. I really did, and that's not me just saying that. I knew you would be. I was never good enough to do that. I know that, but I could fight at the front on my day, which was wicked. And talking about fighting at the front, that next year I was out with health problems, and I remember me and my mum and dad watched the 2004 season, and you won at Mondello, and I think you biffed like Plato out the way, and I thought, Colin's arrived, like he's on it now. But I thought he's gonna have to push Reedy a bit harder than that, who was your teammate at the time. Could you believe the speed of Reedy? I think he's one of the most underrated drivers ever in touring cars.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's he's probably one of the best drivers to have never won BTCC. He's one of those guys that has all the attributes to win, and for whatever reason his chance didn't come. But Anthony was so good to me, in terms of being a teammate. He I think he saw me as a prodigy, and he was always like my mentor. So it was never a case of, who's this young whippersnapper? I'm going to keep my cards close to my chest and not tell him anything like I do now with Tom Oliphant. That's not true. But, Anthony always helped me, and, I could always ask him for advice, and, he would tell me things he would do. But even just me watching from afar, I could just sit, I could learn so much. And he was fast, even in his final years in BTCC, he was just so crafty. His racecraft, I think, was his most important feature. That's what he was really good at. He was a super defensive driver, and great in attack as well, and seizing the moment. And I could learn a lot from him, good and bad. But I could there was so much good to learn from Anthony. So I think he really, a mixture of Anthony and obviously a lot of coaching and mentoring from Dick Bennett. Really molded my style of racing and driving, and sort of molded me into the driver that I am. But yeah, Anthony was a tough competitor, and I think it wasn't until that 2004 season that I actually got onto his coattails, and I was then able to really push him in terms of performance, and match him probably at that stage. In 2002 and 3, I was really still doing a lot of learning, but once we got to 04, I felt that I could get somewhere close to him, but still learning a lot. And that first race, that race win in Mondello, as well as you say, I had never raced in Mondello before until I got to BTCC. I'd done all my racing up north in Kyrgyzstan, so that was another one of those standout days. Where you win in home turf as you did.
That was amazing, mate. I remember watching it, and my mum and dad were more made up than I was. They were like, "Colin's took the lead." I was like, "Oh yeah," and there was Plato full on backwards. I was like, "Go on, lads!" It was amazing, mate. And Reedy, like I say, I always had some really good close races with Reedy, and he was never. A lot of people said he was dirty. I don't think he was. I think people, he got involved, but he was a bit misjudged. I think he was always. I never had a cross word with him about racing. He was always, racecraft was excellent, like you say, and it was sad to see him disappear from touring cars, and then he come back to help you in 09, and I think he tried to find me out of the way actually to get behind you to make sure that I didn't fire you off. But the other thing I was going to ask you, Cole, was the next year in 05, you went to Vauxhall, and I thought, this is now a major test, because I knew how good Muller was. I didn't know how bad the car was, the Astra Sport Hatch. I don't know how much you want to talk about that, mate, but it looked like a pile of emoji poo. It looked really bad, and you put it on pole for the first round at Donington, and I was like, have some of that, Y van.
Yeah, that 2005 was a difficult year, and for many reasons. But as you said, it was the car was very difficult to tame in that year, and even Ivan, Ivan had been with 888 for a long time, and come from the coupe into the sports hatch, and we never really truly got on top of it that year, and Ivan was at the top of his game, and in all honesty, I was still learning my craft, and it's never easy when you leave your comfort zone from West Surrey to another team, because you have a new engineer, new mechanics, and a whole new surroundings, and that was a tough year for me, and I didn't get the results that I wanted. I had a couple of wins and podiums. I think I finished 5th or 6th overall, so it wasn't a write-off, but it was a blow to my confidence for sure. And but I always look back on that season as a real positive, because I had my confidence knocked. It really fired me up to come back and sort of prove to everybody that I'm still as good as I was in 04 and 03. I'm still the driver that had the potential and had the speed. Last year 2005 didn't go to plan, but I'm going to prove that I'm as good as you all remember me to be. And I remember that off season of between 05 and 6, working so hard, in terms of my physical preparation, and I just had a real fire burning inside me that I never had before. I wanted it, and I think maybe on up until that point, of course I cherished being in BTCC, but my desire, ramped up a level, and I really wanted to prove myself. And I came back in 06 and had my best season to date. I was on that year, West Surrey had changed to the 4-cylinder MG, so we'd done with the V6, which was very heavy over the front axle, and now the 4-cylinder. So the car was rapid, and had Rob Collard in alongside me, and we were a super team, backed by the RAC, and no politics, no shackles, and we just, I hit the podium every weekend that season, and fought for the championship. So that was a really fun season as well.
I've got it written down here. 2 wins, massively consistent, 3rd in the championship, your first time in the top 3 that in British touring cars, and then the cars were getting quite old, I remember. But West Surrey are brilliant at just carving that extra bit out. The damping was excellent on that car. It always was a good chassis, but the V8, the V6 always, it just was a bit heavy over the front axle, wasn't it? So, I mean, what was it like to get into that 320 SI, the BMW? The next year in 07 and 08, you must have just been like, oh my God, yes.
It was really exciting. At that time, BTCC moved to the same regs as World Touring Cars. So at that time, the Super 2000 regulations, and RAC was West Surrey's title sponsor. So we had a decision to make. Do we go with BMW, or do we go in a Seat Leon? And those were the 2 options, because those were the 2 cars that were winning in World Touring Cars. But BMW was obviously seen as the premium brand, and RAC wanted to be aligned with that. So off we go down rear wheel drive 3 Series, and it was left to me to try and deliver the performance that Andy Prio was doing in World Touring Car. And the last rear wheel drive vehicle that I had driven was a go-kart. So that was a big shift for me, because all my career was front wheel drive. But as soon as I got into that E90, it was in a way so easy to drive in terms of being user friendly. The car just did everything, and it was so responsive. One click on a front roll bar, and the car was so tunable. So the speed was there, but again, it was not easy to race rear wheel drive in the BTCC, because there was so much close contact, and you're so much more vulnerable with a rear wheel drive car. So again, it took a few seasons just to learn how to stay out of trouble with a rear wheel drive car in BTCC, and once I'd learned that, through 7 and 8, bang, 2009, we were ready to do the job.
Yeah, I remember. Do you know what I remember? And you might tell me different, but I'm sure in one of your first races, I remember seeing you coming backwards down towards Grey Mill Bend, and they went on board with you, and it looked like you just like missed a heel and toe and not matched the revs with the gears and locked the rears up. I was like, oh no, that looks horrible. I want to get in a front wheel drive car. Never that. I don't want to get in a rear wheel drive car.
Well, that was 2008. In 2007, the first year of the E90, we had a 6-speed sequential.
Oh yes.
We had to carry an extra 30 kilos weight penalty. So 2008, we went to the 5-speed H pattern, which brought our weight penalty down by 20 kilos. But because there was only 5 gears, the rev drop was quite significant, and you had to heel and toe and give it a massive blip so that you didn't lock the rear axle. But of course, Brands Hatch in April, round 1, no track temp, going down into Graham Hill, so that would have been from 4th down into 3rd. And yeah, I went down into 3rd and obviously didn't blip it enough, and it just locked the rears. And before I even knew, I was facing Druids again. So again, I had something new to adapt to, and yeah, but they're all learning experiences, and you look back on it now and laugh.
Oh, Cole, how weird is that I remember that? I remember the most random things. I remember that like it was yesterday. I was like, oh my word, that looks horrible. I don't want to be driving one of them if I ever get the chance. But can I ask you, and I don't know if anyone's ever asked you this, and and you might get a different answer now because he's not going to be racing in the championship this year. Well, he might not next year, I don't know. But Matt Jackson, he looked like he rattled your cage, mate, when he come in that BMW. And I know it was run by a different team, and there was all sorts of weird things going on that politics-wise that I'd heard about with that car. He's a fast driver. But I remember at Brands Hatch when he properly give you a workout, mate, on the last lap, and you just unwound the lock and just sent him in like 2 wheels in the gravel at Clearways. And I thought, yeah, I've never seen Colin do that. He definitely doesn't want him near him.
Yeah. Matt was really strong that year, and it was a shame to not see him back this year. Obviously he was going to be on the grid. He top driver. But yeah, he had his car was being run by RBM, Andy Prio's team. I think it was a Prio car from the season before. So they arrived in the sweet spot, and Matt was super fast that year, and he finished second in the championship. I won the independents. It's the scoring system was a bit different, but he finished second overall. But yeah, he was. They were probably our main competition that year. I can't remember what happened in the following year in 2009, but yeah, he was quick, and like I said, Matt's probably one of the guys that except from yourself that I probably get on best with. I don't like to make too many mates in BTCC. It's tough to do that, but he's one of the guys that I probably have a really good relationship with. So sad to see him not on the grid actually this year. I think he would have been fully back on the case again.
Yeah, he'd have been super strong, wouldn't he? And I've known him from production touring cars in 2001, and he was just so fast. Perhaps a real tough competitor. I like Matt, you're right. But yeah, in 2009, he ended up, I think, accident exchange, and BMW pulled out because of the recession. And then he come in the Chevrolet Lassetti.
Oh yeah.
The second round with Plato, and I come back in the same round. He won on his debut for RML at Thruxton, and I was leading I was second, about to have a go at him, and I had a blowout. But you, I think you won the championship that year, didn't you, mate?
Yeah, just about. like any championship I win, it goes to the death, and it's a three-way fight of a nail biter, and I win it on the penultimate lap.
What a day. I know you've spoken about it a lot, and a lot of people know about it, but I remember the queue outside your truck waiting for Shedden, me, Matt Neal. So many people who just wanted to shake your hand because they knew how much it meant to you. I think your granddad was there as well, mate.
Yeah, he was, yeah. My granddad was he would have been kicking on 90 then. Yeah, he was there. My whole family was there, and yeah, that was I can remember those exact moments you talk about. I can remember being in our hospitality after the race, and you guys coming in, yourself and Matt, and I remember just feeling so absolutely busted. I was drained. I was, what age was I then? I was early 20s anyhow, and you would think I would have been on the beers, flat out celebrating, but all I needed was a cup of sugary tea. When you're in hospital and whatever you've been in for, and the next morning you get tea and toast. That's all I needed. That's what I needed to just to bring the. Again, I was completely busted because I'd been put through the ringer by Fabrizio and Jason, and I'd led that season from the summer break. I had a healthy lead, but my points lead was sort of being eroded as we went as we got through the season. So the most pressure I had ever felt in my life, and thankfully I got through it.
I'll tell you, you're dead right, because I'd lived and breathed it with you that year, because in the Integra we were right up the front, and I remember the last rounds, Snetterton, you got turned around by Plato off pole because he had something against the BMW in the first gear being not long enough, and he kind of you got contact coming under the bridge, and he turned you around in front of me, and then rocking him. I remember you being on the front of his car, getting pushed along the back straight. I was like, he doesn't want him to win, does he?
Yeah.
And then you got to Brands, and did it ever cross your mind? I think I've lost this.
No, it didn't actually. It didn't. The one moment I had where I was like, "Oh dear, this is not going well," was when I passed Matt in that final race, because it was such a strategic race, because Matt, who was Fabrizio's teammate, was starting in front. So as the first few laps unfolded, I was tucked in behind Matt, and Fabrizio was 2 behind me. So Tom Chilton, or maybe even you were in there somewhere in the mix as well. But I remember Tom Chilton being directly behind me in the focus, and then Fabrizio was behind him, and it was like a game of chess. I was holding station because Fabrizio had to pass me to win. If Fabrizio finished behind me, I was going to win. So it was such a cagey start to the race. So I was sort of sitting behind Matt, but we were lapping a second and a half slower than race pace. So he was backing me into the pack, and I was sort of just keeping Tom Chilton behind me. But as soon as Fabrizio passed Tom, I was like, okay, it's time to strike. I'm going to get done over here. So as we go up into Druids, my foot released off the brake a little bit sharper than the previous laps, and I run into the back of Matt, because it was only going to be a matter of time before he was going to duff me over. So, you know, I pushed Matt past the apex, but he then come back at me mid-corner at Druids, and I just felt this, you know, when you feel a ding in the door, and I got on the run down to Graham Hill. Immediately my steering was like this, and you know the little yellow bit of tape in the middle of your steering wheel that shows you're just dead on center. Well, it was down there somewhere. And I was like, that was the moment where I was like, oh man, I'm in big trouble. I'm in such big trouble. And I went down into Graham Hill Bend, turned into the corner, and it just didn't go in. And it was like, you know, when you're miles past the apex,
yeah,
I was like, oh dear. And then on the run up from Graham Hill to Surtees, I was going up the straight like this, you know, full on crab mode. And then I turned into Surtees, and the same again. I needed massive luck to get into the apex. But then once I went down into the first high speed into Hawthorne, I had just turned the wheel, like I'd literally just started to turn into the corner, and boom, the car was away in. Then it was full opposite lock. So I didn't know what on earth is going on with this car. So eventually, as that lap unfolded, I was sort of working out the balance. And you know, once we got to the end of the race, and it transpired that I finished that race with 14 mil toe in on the left rear, 14 mil. And you know, when we're setting up a race car nowadays, you know, you're changing the toe in tiny increments. So it might be like 1 mil here, you know, half a mil, you know, either end. You know, it's all fine tuning, and you know, the engineer will change the toe, and you'll go out and say, oh, that was better or worse. And but you know, 14 mil, the car should be a write-off. But I had no option. You know, it was do or die. So I had to, because I knew if Fabrizio passes me, he wins. But if he stays behind me, I win. So there was literally a switch flicked in my head, and I was like, he's not coming past. You know, if he's coming past, both of us are heading for the victory. That's the only option, because I have invested too much in this for me not to win. So I fought to the death on that day. You know, I remember coming through Clearways with about 4 or 5 laps to go, and I was parked on the white line on the inside. I might have actually even had 2 wheels on the grass, and I could just see this flash of red down the inside of me, and knowing that he was going down the pit entry to try and pass me. And it was an epic final. It was a really epic final, and fair play to Fabrizio. He was as fair as he could be with me. He didn't wipe me out. There was a few bits of contact, and even going through Hawthorne in those latter laps, which is the first corner on the Grand Prix track, I was literally parked on the inside, probably in third gear instead of fifth gear. Just trying to be as defensive as I could, and he was on the grass on the inside of me. So it was a proper high-speed game of chess, but it was mega to be able to tell the story and look back on it, and having come out as the victor. And ironically, if I hadn't have won that championship, I may not have won any of the others after that, because that's what gives you the confidence to go on and believe in yourself and win more, because you know how it is. It's so easy to have a knock of confidence. Even now, if I have a bad race, your confidence, takes a hit. And, winning that championship gives you the belief and the platform to know that you've got the capabilities. Give me the car and I can do it again, type thing. So, if I hadn't won that championship, there knows, what would have happened. But yeah, it was, still have nightmares about that 14 mil toe in on the right.
I remember watching it me and Andrew Jordan were watching it we'd both retired. Campbell had broke on my car and he had contact in his Vectra. And we were watching it from the Grand Prix. And I remember he was only young, you know what he's like. He was like, oh, look what's going on. I went, oh yeah. And there was like so much contact, and Gio was so good.
Yeah, he was. And
he could have turned you around every corner, mate. Every corner.
Yeah, no, he was a gentleman really that day. And that rear hub is now a clock on my dad's off table. There's now a timepiece in the middle of it, so we have that piece of history.
Oh, I love it. One of the best. I remember all the letters in Autosport saying what people had just watched: a gentleman, a youngster, and just brilliant racing. It'll be so well thought of, mate. And I'm so glad I can say I was there that day, retired, watching him go around. I love that call. I really love it. And I just want to talk about the year after. I remember all the rumours flying around. RAC had gone. You didn't race in British touring cars. You went in World touring cars, which must have been difficult leaving your family behind. You had a young family. But when you come back in 2013, I remember being on the phone to you, and I was on the phone to you and Louise, actually, your wife, and we got you on the grid at Silverstone at the end of 12, I think it was.
Yeah.
You announced that you were going to try and come back, and I thought, that's brilliant. But it wasn't all plain sailing, was it, mate? Because was that the year that, and I don't think a lot of people know this, you had Bell's palsy, didn't you?
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. That was, pretty big moment in my life, really. And, it's had sort of lasting consequences.
Do you mind talking about it? Sorry to ask. But
no, I don't, and I was happy to sort of, publicize it at the time, because, I had never heard of Bell's palsy before. And even now, so many people aren't aware of it. And, basically it's like a viral infection. It was, it's a nerve. It was a trapped nerve that runs down each side of your face, from your ear to your eye. And, I had been out of BTCC for a few years, and I was so hungry to come back. Being on the sidelines is not nice. And I'd been announced I was coming back with West Surrey in the 1 Series. So, I was putting everything into it. I was training really hard, and I was so fit. I was swimming. I'd started swimming, and I was swimming 3 or 4 times a week. And it's funny when when I tell people I'm going swimming, they get these images of me breaststroking up and down the pool, all this sort of stuff, and lying up in the hot tub. But I was, I was full on, front crawl. I was training with the club, swimming club, and I was as fit as I'd ever been. But in hindsight, I was putting too much into it. I was putting too much stress on my body. And one Friday night, I got out of the pool, and ironically, I was I was standing in the chippy. I was so hungry. I was so hungry after being in the pool that I thought, oh, I need a chicken burger. I need a chicken fillet burger. So I was standing in the chippy, and I started to feel this real sort of ache in my ear, and I just thought it was a bit of earache after the pool. Sort of dismissed it, and I was then going up to see Louise, and I woke up the next morning, and I literally thought I had a stroke. I woke up, and immediately I was like, alarm bells were ringing, because I couldn't see out of one eye, and my face was completely frozen on one side. When you go to the dentist for a filling or something, he puts the injection in, and you're a bit like this, and you're sort of dribbling down one side. Well, that was me, and immediately Louise rushed me to the hospital, and I was thinking, what was in that chicken fillet burger? But so we went I went to A&E, and the doctor knew straight away what was wrong. He says, you've got Bell's palsy, and I was like, what's Bell's palsy? Because I'm fit and healthy. But anyhow, he put me on steroids and antivirals is how you treat this thing. So I was just going with the flow, didn't know what was happening to me, and one whole side of my face was completely frozen for weeks. So I couldn't eat because I was just constantly biting my lip, and I couldn't actually close this eye. So at night time going to bed, I had to get surgical tape and literally tape my eye closed. And I remember that first race back I remember going back to Media Day, and I'd been so looking forward to getting back to BTCC and back on the grid. And Media Day, the only thing you got to do is look pretty and smile. And there's me standing, looking, a bit like Wurzel Gummidge. I was not looking pretty at all. And I remember being so embarrassed, because I was now representing sort of BMW and eBay, and I just wasn't the person that I used to be. And because I wasn't feeling good on the inside, I wasn't looking good. I just wasn't feeling confident about myself. And I remember the first race at Brands Hatch Indy, my eye still wasn't, I couldn't blink basically. So, when you blink, you clean your eyeball, and I couldn't do that. So I remember going into Surtees Bend, and only been able to see out of one eye, because I wasn't able to blink. This eye was just completely filled with probably dirt and sweat and water, but I couldn't blink to clear that. So I was literally driving with one eye, and I was just like, oh man, what am I doing here? What have I got myself back into? But thankfully,
I never knew any of that.
Yeah, well, obviously, there's all this stuff going on in the background, but you got to keep it under your hat, because one, you don't want your competitors to know, you don't want your sponsors to know all these things, because you're there, you got to perform. You're in at the deep end. So, thankfully the situation gradually improved as the season went along. But I was having to take a lot of medication to get through it, and I really didn't enjoy that year because of all these sort of health issues that were going on. But I got through it, regardless. But yeah, it was a tough time in my life, and it was it was really hard.
Cole, can I ask you then? Do you know when you? It's a real difficult one, mate. When because you've got all that going on, and maybe people who are watching this can relate to it. You know, I've got a scar on my head there. It goes like right through me eyebrow. It's never bothered me when I've been older, but as a kid, it was horrible. And people used to be like, "Oh, there's Frankenstein." Did you feel people looking at you strange?
Uh, oh yeah, when you look back now at those pictures from media day, um, it didn't look like me at all, and I just find myself wearing sunglasses for so much of the time, to hide. But obviously, my confidence took such a hit, and yeah, even walking down the street, you could see people looking at you, thinking, what's up with him, and the scary thing is that for a majority of the people, they don't recover 100%. So I was feeling sick to my stomach because, I could have been left like that for the rest of my life. And a lot of people are, where they have, a defect basically on one side of their face. So I didn't know if I was ever going to, get my good looks back. So, it was a really concerning time, but gradually it improved. But even now, I'll see days, I look at pictures of myself, and particularly if I'm tired, or if the sun's shining brightly where I have to squint, that this eye is always a bit of a weakness and a bit of a sort of drop in it. I'll say it. Other people might not, but even Louise will say to me sometimes, like, I can see your Bell's palsy eye today, but thankfully I recovered 99%. So I got to be really thankful for that.
Yeah, for sure. And I remember a guy called Chris Walker actually having the same thing, racing for Kawasaki or stuff.
Yeah, and that I took a lot of heart from that, because I had never heard of Bell's palsy, and then straight away you get on to Dr. Google, and Chris Walker. Then I read his story, and then I read that Ayrton Senna had it, and he had it back in the day, and I have the same birthday as Ayrton Senna, 21st of March.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I was thinking there's all these parallels, and there was a few other sort of GB, Olympic athletes that I knew had it and recovered, so that sort of gave me a bit of confidence, So I thought, if all these guys have it and have recovered to do well, then surely I can do it as well.
Cole, I've never done this before, mate, but can I ask something? Because you've been on and been amazing with us. It's saying we've got 1 minute 40 seconds left, and I've just got a couple of more things to ask you.
Yeah.
Could we end and ask everybody to come back and see us in the next minute, and then I'll let you go, mate, if that's all right?
Yeah, no worries.
Nice one. You're a top man. Nice one. I'll see you in a sec, fella.
Okay.
Wowzers. I hope you're all coming back on. You've got to stay with us for just another 5-10 minutes. Just need to ask Cole a few other things, and hopefully he'll come back on board now. But yeah, I'm just going to get Colin again, because I've just got a couple more things to ask him. And thanks for staying with us, because it's just brilliant in-depth stuff. I'm really pleased. I only said to him it'd be half an hour, but it's just coming up with Colin now. But amazing, like, I can't believe, telling us all that's amazing, mate. And I honestly won't keep you any longer. It's just that we never get a chance to, speak to someone like yourself, mate, who's won so many titles. But the other things I was going to ask you, mate, the other titles that you've won, they've all got their own story, haven't they? And I know that some people probably won't say, he's not that emotional, he looks well driven. I kind of get how much it means to you, and every title has probably got a different meaning to you, isn't it? There's, your first one, then the next one in 2014 when you come back after the year of having Bell's palsy, but then that 2018 one, mate, when your mum passed and you won that race at Alton. I'll never forget that, mate. How difficult was that year, knowing that you had all that going on? I know your mum wasn't well for quite a while, but I just couldn't imagine, mate. Personally, I couldn't imagine if I was in your shoes, mate.
Yeah, that was the toughest year of our lives. You know, it's even as we started the season. I remember from Donington to Thruxton. You know, my mum had, as you said, been ill for a long time, but she was really starting to go downhill, and it was a case of you know, when's this going to happen? And I didn't know if I could go to the next race, you know, because my mum, she was down to her last few days. So, you know, everything, your life is on hold, and then it gets to a Thursday of a race weekend, and I'm like, right, I gotta go. I gotta get on a plane here and go, and we'll just keep in touch. So I'm at Thruxton, and I'm, you know, on the phone with my dad, you know, how are things or whatever, and I'm just there, but I'm prepared. I'm just waiting on the call to say, you got to come home. You know, you got to come home, because unfortunately things happen quite quickly, you know, with the condition my mum had, and you know, even in terms of you know, how things go in Northern Ireland. You know, when somebody passes, it's you know, like the funeral's 2 days later. It's not like here in the UK where it could be weeks. So, you know, I was literally, I would go out, do my free practice, come in, and I would go to the bag to get my phone, and you're lifting the phone out of your bag, and you're just dreading to see what's going to be there. And, you know, thankfully the message wasn't there, but, you know, I got through that weekend. But then obviously between Thruxton and Oulton, then my mum did pass, and it was just, well, so many people know how it feels to lose a parent, and you know, you can't quite put it into words, but you know, then you just got to keep going on with life. And you know, in a way, motorsport was a distraction for me, because you know, I was living two lives, because I had this I was still living in Northern Ireland. I had this horrible life at home, you know, just with what was happening. But then, you know, the racing was a bit of an escape, and I could distract myself a bit. You know, I could think about racing. And I remember that year going to visit my mum in hospital. You know, she was getting looked after in hospital, and I remember being sitting in the waiting room. You know, there only could be, like, I think 2 people sit with my mum at a time. So I would go and sit with her, and then I would come out into the waiting room, and I would have all my race notes. So I would just be sitting in the waiting room, and instead of reading the Top Gear magazine or whatever was lying there, I'd just be preparing for a race weekend, and just using it as some sort of distraction, and then getting on the flight on Thursday and going and doing the race. But when we got to Oulton, you know, I was just then so driven to try and, you know, do something in honor of my mum, because you feel so powerless. But I thought, you know, the best thing I can do is try and win for her, because she, you know, my mum, everybody knew her. You know, she would come to all my races, and you know, she'd seen that race at Thruxton that I was talking to you about. So, you know, I thought the best thing that I can do this year is to just dig my heels in and try and give something back, you know, to her in memory of her. So, you know, thankfully got through the season, but you know, whenever I'd won that day at Brands Hatch, there was very little feeling of joy. It wasn't like 2019 or 14 or 09. It was just like, you know, I want to go home now. You know, I remember hugging Louise, my wife. I got out of the car, just cried my eyes out, hugged Louise and said, you know, it's over. You know, it's over now. This year's over. We can just draw a line on it. And, you know, there was no celebrations at all. I went to the truck, got changed. Louise, myself, and the 2 kids, and Jade, who's our, you know, who's my grid girl, but one of our closest friends. We went to Ming Chinese. I'm sure you've been there by Brand. Yeah. We went straight to Ming. There was only us, and had a meal and flew home the next morning. But I just was so glad it was over. But so proud that I could dedicate that one and do that championship for my mum.
It was great, mate. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. I loved the onboard at the end where you were speaking about your mum. It was great, mate. Absolutely brilliant. I think it was fitting, and she was definitely watching down you, mate. It was awesome. And very lucky, aren't you, to be with WSR, you're a family man, and WSR are more than family to you, aren't they? I mean, you know those guys so well, and to win those 4 titles, especially 2019, you could wax lyrical about that, but I mean, the ups and downs, the boost reduction, at Thruxton, and I actually thought it was game over for you guys. I thought, that's it. Honda are going to just smoke them for the next few rounds. But fighting spirit you had, mate. And I know the CEO of BMW, Graham Griever's got a picture in his office of, what's your slogan? The hardest workers.
Yeah, those who work hardest win.
And that is something you live by, isn't it, mate?
Yeah, it is, and it's just how I've been brought up. When I was the age of my boys now, we got 8 weeks off school back in Northern Ireland, school holidays, but never were we allowed to lie in and get up at 11 o'clock and scratch around watching cartoons. We were sent to work. I started working when I was their age, and I remember getting my first pay packet. My dad had me on 50p an hour, and
good old Trev.
Yeah, yeah. Slave labour, 50p an hour, and my job was, he sent me and my brother out with a yard brush, and we literally just sweep in the yard, and we would sweep the yard, and the lorries would just keep coming driving in off the site, and undoing all the work we done. So I was brought up having to work hard, and I think staying at school and going to uni, as much fun as I had at uni, I had to graft hard for that, get a degree, and and in a way I enjoyed studying, and I've always enjoyed sort of working hard at things, and even if it doesn't go well, even if the season's tough, I always feel that if I've put everything into it, invested everything that I can, and work hard, then I can't be dissatisfied. I can be proud of my efforts, type thing. So I continue to do that even this season. It's not easy coming back and finding that fire and that motivation to do it again, and take on all the other teams that come back hungry and fast. But I've still got the fire, and Louise wouldn't let me have it any other way. She says she's going to have me still racing in BTCC when I'm on a Zimmer frame. So, yeah.
I think you'd get away with it, mate, because honestly, you're like Benjamin Button. I'm going to just stick Button on the side of your car, mate. You age backwards. It annoys me. It really annoys me. But how do you, just quickly there, how do you keep your motivation? You're 4-time British champion. I won at Alton and said I was going to retire, mate. That's all I ever wanted to do.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I'm not a competitive bloke. If we went to play a game of tennis or five-a-side or a game of pool or whatever, I wouldn't be too annoyed if you won. I'm quite a big Man United supporter, but if they lose, I don't.
Which is always.
I can still sleep at night. But when it comes to motorsport, it's the only thing that fires me up. It's the only thing that I'm competitive about, and I don't know what it is. It's just when I get to the track and I feel the buzz and the vibe. I just want to. I want to do my best at it. I think that's me. I want to put my best foot forward, and it's like I said earlier in the conversation. It's I take pride from doing my best, but also it comes from the top down. Dick Bennett, I probably shouldn't say what age he is now, but he's 70 plus, and he does not lose his hunger or motivation or fire, and that really feeds down through the whole team. And each year I come back thinking, okay, we won last year. Dick will be a bit more chilled, and he'll maybe not be as intense, but he doesn't let up. He wants it more than ever. So I'm like, okay, if Dick's on this as much, then so are we all. And you really feel that, and there is no resting on laurels or not working as hard as you had done the previous times. Like today I've been busy writing up my test report from Snetterton yesterday, and he'll be expecting that in from me this evening. So it's full on, and it's like I say, we get the results, and we've won the championship the past 2 years, not by chance, only through hard graft, and you set your stall out to do it again this season. So yeah, I enjoy it's I'm not good at anything else basically. It's being in motorsport and racing keeps me out of a proper job for
Hey, I disagree with that, mate. I've seen you dancing in 2009 doing the river dance at probably one of the best things I've ever seen, with a cardboard cutout of Giovanardi.
Yeah.
We've spoken about this before, but mate, one of the best nights I've ever had. Total absolute classic. I've gutted the fans can't see it. I'm definitely going to do an Insta live from there. Colin, last question. Andrew Jordan, such a shame he's gone. He spoke so highly of you on the last Insta live we did, and said that you rang him off your own back, obviously, and you were obviously devastated. Does a part of you think, thank God he's gone, or as that challenge and the human part of it is still with you, isn't it? And you don't want to see that.
Yeah, I think we're really going to miss Andrew this year. He was instrumental last year, in driving the whole team forward, especially with the new car. We were both, we were all at such a high level that, every time you're out on track, you have to leave it all out there in terms of performance, because if you don't, Andy will be a tenth or a couple of tenths quicker. So, to have somebody like that in a team, somebody of such a high level, it just keeps raising the bar all the time, and we're pushing each other so hard. And each season Andrew had been at West Surrey, he would step up. He would step up again, because he was like me. He hadn't done so much in rear wheel drive, and took him probably a year or two to get onto the way of that. And then he kept raising his performance, but he came out of the traps really fast at the beginning of last season, and I was aware of that, and I had to keep up on my level, and I think as a team we're going to miss him this year, because he's set such a high benchmark, and we all, myself and Tom, we had to keep working harder than ever, keep investing, just to stay on pace and try to stay one step ahead. So even yesterday at Snack, I was, you miss seeing that third car in the garage, and the energy that he brought to the team. Andy has a different approach to me. There's no doubt about that. He's probably a bit more happy-go-lucky. He's while I would be maybe in the back of the truck, grafting away on things, writing notes down and trying to find more speed, sort of, maybe methodically, and going about it in a sort of scientific type of way. Andy's just a pure racer, a pure driver, and he's out driving 2 or 3 times a week in his historic stuff. So he's just in the groove all the time. So we're both approach our craft from a different way, but achieve the same sort of results. So you know, we had a great dynamic in the team, and also had great fun, you know, with so many good nights out, with you included. You know, when I think back to Goodwood, a Festival of Speed last year, you know, and there's fantastic times, you know, and you know, the fun we had at Toco Awards and stuff, you know, and you know, hopefully Andy will be back. You know, he's one of those guys that should be in the championship, you know, and you know, one of the champions that we want to see in BTCC. So you know, I'm going to miss him in the team this year, just because you know, even being out on track, you know, you look for that Pertac car, you know, he's maybe 3 or 4 cars in front of you, and you're like, I'm gonna get to him, you know, I'm gonna get to him. So it's going to be different. It's going to be strange being back down to 2 cars at Team BMW. You know, it's been 3 cars at Westbury for quite a while now, but it's going to be a different season for us all. And like I say, we just embrace it and do our best.
Yeah, for sure, mate. I'm fully with you. Absolutely. Listen, mate, your time is precious, I know. Thank you so much. You've had some lovely comments I've seen flash up. People saying they were crying in 2009 when you won, and you know, you're one of the best, cleanest racers, mate. You're an absolute legend, and I think you've just summed yourself up with your description of Andrew Jordan. So fair play to you, fella. Send my best to Louise, Adam, and Lewis, and Trevor when you speak to him. And you're a top man, Cole. Thanks very much, and we'll see you soon, fella.
No worries. Good to chat to you. Yeah, see you soon.
Cheers,
guys.
Bye bye.